Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, friends, what's going on? You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. It's time for episode 282. My goodness, it's been quite a lot. Quite a lot of Tiger Claw Radio. So this week we've got great games that I severely underestimated being sold for pennies on the dollar. In addition to that, we got a whole bunch of other fun stuff. Gonna play some music from the library of T.T. Slider. T.T. Slider, who I found on Bandcamp, and I got totally hooked on. It's got some great stuff. Let's go ahead and kick things off with a track from T.T. Slider. This is the, let's see, the EP entitled Slide, which is a 3-track EP. This is like his premiere EP, right? The artwork he uses for this was his artist like banner artwork for a long time. So I consider this like his title track EP, which I believe is available for free if you pick it up on Bandcamp. All right, boys and girls, you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a name for that song. This is one of those things where the names have all been run through Google Translate, so they're all, like, poorly translated Japanese. I know that's a thing in the vaporwave scene. Personally, I don't get it myself, but that's track one. There's only 3 tracks on the album, so what are you going to do? But I dig it. It's got a good future funk vibe. I got to say, a little bit heavy on the cutoff. On the cutoff knob early on in the track. I had a solid like 10 seconds to talk over it just because the cutoff was cranked all the way up. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So this past week, on Monday, I couldn't quite get a van cast out. I was getting it together for Monday, and I just couldn't do it. So first van cast of the week was on Tuesday morning. So that's what we're doing, boys and girls. We're going back to Tuesday morning on Tiger Claw Radio. Stay with me. Morning, everybody. It's 6:15 in the morning, and it is Tuesday. It's the van cast. Didn't do one yesterday because as I was leaving the house, I was just more into listening to tunes. I had just downloaded the entire discography of this vaporwave guy I've been into, TT Slider. And I threw that on and started going through it. He's got a lot of Bandcamp releases that are just like 3 songs and whatnot. So I dumped his entire discography into like a single directory. I just started letting it roll, and that was my Monday. But now here we are, Tuesday. It's 43 degrees out. We'd been enjoying such nice, warm weather over the past week or so. Temperatures just dropped and got brisk again. Off to the office. So last night, got up and I was sitting in my office playing some games before bed. I finished Kane and Lynch, the original Kane and Lynch, Dead Men. So I beat it twice so I could get both endings. Alright, broad strokes, it's okay. It's more complete, I think, than the second game. I liked Kane and Lynch 2 a lot, but at the end, they just kind of pulled the plug on it. There's no real ending to the game, and I kind of had a problem with that. This game has the reverse effect. There is an ending, but it's just overall not as satisfying to play as the second game, I think. But it is pretty cool. It had its moments. I think the characters of Kane and Lynch are certainly like super cool. Like having grown up watching Reservoir Dogs over and over again, I certainly get like the whole crime drama thing. They're very believable or believable dialogue, as I think Swingle would say. He said that while we were playing through the second one together. It's a shame about Games for Windows, the Games for Windows Live or whatever it was, because all the multiplayer functionality of this game is now dead because of Games for Windows Live. Just one of those things that just felt tragedy to Games for Windows Live, and not the only game for that to happen to as well. The Mortal Kombat trilogy was released as a Games for Windows Live game. That sucks. But what are you going to do? I was happy to be done with that game. When it was over, I actually uninstalled it, which is something I almost never do. On the rare occasions I finish a game, I usually keep it installed. It's like, hey, I might want to come back and play like a special mode or something later on. And I usually don't. I usually just let it sit. But this one, I was actually like, all right, all done. Because every once in a while, there's a game like Resident Evil 5 where it's like I'll play all the way through it and I'll see the ending. And then after the ending, I'm like, you know what? I want to play this again, or I want to play this more. After Resident Evil 5, I played a bunch of Mercenaries mode, and I played through the entire game, like an extra time and a half. So that one, even though I'm kind of done with it, I still have it installed at this point. So that was my evening. I haven't picked a game to follow up Kane and Lynch with yet. I'm kind of leaning towards revisiting the Call of Duty franchise. After not really touching those games for years. Last Call of Duty game I played through was Call of Duty Black Ops. I played through it on the PS3. This was back when I think it was like National Geographic had just released an article with the best video game endings ever. And yes, you heard that right. This was from National Geographic. And it was like the top 100 best endings ever, and the number one game was Black Ops. And even at the time when it was like fresh, all the video gamers were all looking at each other like, what? Black Ops? That's the best ending? Black Ops didn't even really have a great ending. I mean, I wouldn't have even put that on the top 10. It was okay. It was satisfying to play through. I mean, it was like, at least it was like complete, and they resolved the story, unlike the Kane and Lynch games. They resolved the story, and they had music that played during the credits. Kane and Lynch 1 ends, and the credits start rolling, and while the credits are rolling, it's just playing the title screen music. So when I finished Kane and Lynch, it essentially just went back to the title screen. Oh, man. Oh, man, they had ending, like, Contra had a more complete ending. Contra for the NES had a more complete ending than the original Kane and Lynch. Alright, hang on a second. Some Weisenheimer has their brights on. Alright, I think we lived. Right, so, played a couple rounds of Call of Duty's Black Ops, the zombie mode. Wait, did I play Black Ops? No, I played World at War. I played one of the games that has zombie mode a couple of rounds, because I feel like, excuse me, the idea of Call of Duty in like an arcadey type mode, I think it fits better when it's not trying to take itself super serious. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't really know the Call of Duty franchise very well, to be perfectly honest. I played all the way through Black Ops, and that's really the only one I've played all the way through. That's like one game in a franchise with like, what, 15 games in it? So, you know. Played all the way through Black Ops, and I remember back in the day when Black Ops was like fairly new, getting into the multiplayer on the PS3, like caring about my rank and stuff like that. That didn't last long. I did the same thing with Modern Warfare 2 on Steam, like a couple years after that. It was already a dead game. Or not dead, but it was already like an old game, and I remember loading it up and playing it up every night for a few weeks. That ended when I joined like a hack server, and it advanced my rank like 30 levels in a single game. I was like, oh, alright. Good job ruining the progression, guys. So, yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll be done playing through Rudy Tooty point and shooty games for a little while, and then just go back to making chiptunes and stuff. I felt, when I was sitting at my desk this morning, I just had like I felt the crushing weight of all the projects I have open. I got to do Out of the Park Baseball 20, which is an awesome game, and I haven't given it nearly as much attention as it deserves. I'm almost done with my Kashyyyk Force article for Emerald Rangers. Keeping up with TCR, and I got, the month is like 2/3 over. It's the 16th half over. Okay. I need to get some more work done on, excuse me, the Tiger Score as well. Halfway through the month, this is the part where I need to be working on the Tiger Score, but it's like the fun part, where I'm like playing the games and gathering the scores and stuff. So, yeah. I have all that stuff to finish, and I get probably 1 hour every morning. And I had been spending that hour playing Kane and Lynch. Oh, man. You know why I did that? Because I am a piece of garbage. That's why. Just before I left the house, I opened up Famitracker. And I was playing through some of the demos that I have, and I have my little MIDI keyboard hooked up so that I can control Famitracker with a keyboard, which is pretty cool. but I opened it up like just before I left, which was a mistake. Because I started having all these ideas. It's one of these moments where it's like, all right, I could just trim this little bit here. I could create a whole new pattern, and I could strip out this progression here, and then I just use the bass line here, and then we got a whole other verse, and then I could put a solo on top, make it sound like this. All these ideas started coming to me, and I was like, but now I don't have time. Now I got to go to work. Meanwhile, when I actually sit down and open it, last time I opened it, I was so dead tired. I was like, I couldn't make anything happen. I remember staring at the FamiTracker interface for like 15 minutes, just sitting there holding my tea. But I didn't have any energy, didn't have any creativity in me at the time. So, go figure. Record Store Day just came and went too. 2019 Record Store Day. You know, I've never done a Record Store Day. I've been collecting records for a few years now. We've had like a family record player for a long time, and we would get records from the dollar store, not the dollar store, but the used bookstore. Our local library ran a used bookstore that was based entirely off of donations, so they were able to undercut the other used bookstores. So they would sell records for $1, no matter what the record was. You had to search for it. They were completely unsorted, but all the records were $1. So this was how we started collecting records. So we had a lot of Frank Sinatra, and we had like, what else? Perry Como, and we Tony Bennett, that kind of stuff. It wasn't until like the last, I'd say, few years, I started really collecting vinyls seriously. That started with MagFest, going to MagFest and like 3 years ago, and getting a Proto Men record. That was like a big turning point. I was like, oh yeah, these are really cool. Because I knew it was like, I was getting records for $1, so it was hard to, it was very difficult to justify, all right, I can get a record for $1, but I can get like a more modern sounding record for like $20. It's a pretty big price jump. It was hard to justify. Yeah, so I've never done a Record Store Day. And this past year, getting into cassette tapes again, Record Store Day is starting to like have cassette releases as well, because of the whole resurgence with cassette tapes. And I really wanted to do it, but I just didn't make it happen. That's okay though. Where are we at now? 12 minutes in? Alright, I think it's time to start bringing this ship home. In this moment, I want to be playing my GOG games. GOG.com. They just released, I think I might have talked about this previously, but they just released Warcraft and Warcraft 2, the Battle.net edition, for $15. So now we have Diablo for $10, and for $15 we got good old Warcraft 2. I would like to spend $25, get both of those games, and just seal myself in my office for a good long time. I never played Diablo all the way to the end. I played it quite far years ago. Probably like 12 years ago. I played through it quite far, but I never actually finished it. In fact, I still have my Prima strategy guide for Diablo. So that would be fun to get the GOG version of Diablo, hook it up, and then dust out my Prima strategy guide for Diablo, and then flip through it again. I think that'd be a good time. A lot of money though. I mean, I guess it's not a lot, but GOG just had a sale also, right? So you're talking about $10 for Diablo versus, I don't know, you could get another like really killer game like Wing Commander 3 for $250. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, I can't really spend the money on it. I'm trying to hold on to my cash after taking that big hit on the road. So I think that's just what I would do. Barring that, not getting the new games, I'd probably sit down with some Wing Commander. Wing Commander 3 is an awesome game. Sometimes I like to open up Wing Commander 3 and just run the flight simulator. You know what else is really cool and underrated, excuse me. Wing Commander Academy. Now that's an awesome game. I'm a fan of the Wing Commander series. I think they're awesome. I especially like the older ones in the franchise. And Wing Commander Academy isn't so much a game because it's all those Wing Commander games are really like story driven. And they made this program where you can just like pick the ships you want to fight and the terrain you want to fight in, and you have like an expanded version of the battle simulator. All those Wing Commander games, somewhere along the line towards the beginning, there was like an arcade machine that you could sit in and do non-story related battle games. Well, they took that and turned it into its own standalone game at some point. It's not rated very highly. It's got problems. But I like it. I think it's awesome. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I would run right now. Sit back and fly some test missions in Wing Commander Academy. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun morning. Do that for like an hour just to loosen up. And then finish my Kashik Force article. That'd be great. That would be a good day. And with that, boys and girls, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio because I've got to go do my Tuesday at work. I'll see you there. All right, boys and girls, there's no time to waste. Let's play another track. It's another one from TT Slider. This is from the Kanakamori EP. It's the second track. It's called Never Give Up. I believe this one is also free if you head over to his Bandcamp page. Nice. I know at the beginning of that Vancast I said I was a Vaporwave guy. I'm looking back at it now. Way more future funk than Vaporwave. But that's what I'm feeling this week. Last one from TT Slider, then we'll check something else out. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Remember when she had me.
Oh yeah. All right. So just before we move on with the show, I want to take a quick second to thank the Patreon subscribers. This is a Patreon-sponsored show, and these few guys giving up their resources is what makes it so we can come back every week. Now to them I offer early access to the show, and I read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Derabka, and Konstantin Kelman. Thank you guys so much for your support. I hope you enjoy. On the next Vancast, getting involved and ignited and interested in a game that I didn't expect to be. Stick with me. It's Thursday morning, everybody. It's time for the Vancast. It's 55 degrees out right now. Oh boy, come on, go buddy. And I'm getting ready to drive to work and do my Thursday. Ooh, bump, 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 bump. Alright, so there are two games that I got into over the last 48 hours that I never would have thought I would get into. So let's talk about it a little bit. First game was Call of Duty World at War. Now look, I know Call of Duty is what it is. It was, at one point, it was like the most popular game to play. I know it still has a huge following, but I never really meshed with Call of Duty. Alright, I played a little bit of Modern Warfare 2, played a little bit of Black Ops. Never really became one of these Call of Duty guys, you know what I mean? Well, I got into World at War on Steam. I started playing through the single-player campaign, and I'm having a good time. It's kind of funny how when I first started playing... Well, first of all, I'm playing through on Rookie, right, or the easy skill level. I just wanted to see what the campaign was like. I didn't want to get hung up anywhere. I wasn't interested in, improving anything. There's no achievements for that game. Let's just play through it on easy and just take a look at what the campaign is like. So it's kind of funny how, like, when I started playing, over the first couple levels, I was totally buying into it. So, gotta keep my head down. There's bullets everywhere. Who do I shoot? Oh my goodness. There's action all over the place. Let's try and keep it together and pay attention. But then after I had a few levels under my belt and I was a couple hours in, I realized the full width and breadth of what easy mode means. I was basically just running around knifing everybody, going, man, I wish I'd played on a higher skill level. So I'm probably 5 or 6 hours into that storyline. And I get the feeling playing through it at this point that the single player campaign is wrapping up. But we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'm even going to touch the multiplayer. I just wanted to play through the single player. But I gotta be honest, it's been a bit of a good time. A better time than I thought it was going to be. And what's weird about World at War is this is a game that I've got on several different platforms. Not because I like it that much, but just because it's turned up at the thrift store that way. Got it on the 360, and I got it on, of all places, the Wii. Yeah, so I do have a Call of Duty game on the Wii. Yeah, so that is, what it is. So that was one of the two games I got into over the last 48 hours. The other game was a game called Rhythm Zone. Let's go back to 2010. All right, 2010, 2011. I was getting into Steam for the first time. Before that, I didn't really have access to powerful enough internet. It wasn't something I really looked into until I met Gooch and the Douchebag, and they were telling me about some of the deals that were on Steam, and then that's how I got into Steam. But at that time, Guitar Hero was also at its peak of popularity. Guitar Hero had really hit I remember hearing about that for the first time around 2007. Everybody was talking about it, even the people at work who were not into video games at all were talking about how much they liked Guitar Hero. And I kind of stayed away from that whole rhythm game craze. The only rhythm game I ever really remember trying and enjoying was a game called D-Pad Hero, which was an NES ROM, not a ROM hack, but a ROM that you could get for free. I got that and I liked it. And at the time, I ended up with this game Rhythm Zone in my Steam library, and it's basically like a Guitar Hero clone, with the distinction of you can feed in MP3s, and it'll use a spectrum analysis to procedurally generate, sort of a Guitar Hero course on MP3s. So nowadays there's a lot of games out there you can feed MP3s into. But in those days, there weren't. I only know of two, actually. there was 3, but I only had 2. There was a Beat Hazard, which was a dual stick shooter, and then there was this other game where the name escapes me now, where you would play as a little ship and you would go down a 3D looking track. I can't think of the name of it though. And then there was this game, so it's really only 3. So the idea that you could feed tracks in and play it that way at the time was really, I guess cutting edge. So I got this game Rhythm Zone, and back in 2011, and I know it was 2011 because I have achievements that are unlocked during that time. I tried it out and I played it for a couple of hours, and then I put it on the shelf. I put it on the shelf back in 2011, and I just unearthed it yesterday. Why I got back into this game after all these years, I don't know. But I can tell you what led me to it. I was looking around on Steam, and there's some page that shows achievements. All the achievements unlocked by any given user, and it rates them based on rarity and desirability. Like going through your Steam achievements, but having a way to sift out all the ones that are just like automatically unlocked. So you have achievements from games that are more rare, are rated a little bit more highly, right? So like, and then harder to obtain achievements in popular games are also rated highly. So like, I've got an achievement in Gary's Mod where I played in the same server for 8 hours. That's a rated pretty high rated achievement. A lot of people play that game. Not a lot of those people have that achievement, thus it's rated highly. And I remember going through this list of achievements that I have, and some of the Rhythm Zone achievements were rated really highly. I was like, why is that? So I went to go to the Rhythm Zone store page, and as it turns out, they stopped selling that game a long time ago. So here I am looking at achievements for a dead game I got back in 2011. Can't buy it anymore, and it's from a genre that I don't really usually play. So I said, hey man, these achievements are so desirable. I only played this game for a couple of hours. I can see a few easy ones on this list I can go kick off, and that was it. I loaded up the game. I started feeding some more of my tracks into it, and there you go. At least for, the last however long it's been, 48 hours or so, I actually got into a rhythm game. I got into it. And this morning when I sat down, I had, 1 hour to play games. That's what I played. I played Rhythm Zone. Kind of sucks that it's gone now, because it had a competitive mode where you would send challenges back and forth. And from what I understand, it's more like you would play a song and then you would send that data to a friend and they would try and match your data. So you weren't playing multiplayer in real time, but it was like play by email challenges on a rhythm game. Seems like a neat idea, but the servers are long dead, so those achievements are all locked forever, which sucks. Yeah, the trials and tribulations of being into a dead game. Not to mention there was DLC that I can't get anymore. This is the problem with DLC. When the games disappear, the DLC disappears as well. Where are we at now? About 9 minutes in. I guess that's about it for me. If I were back home, I'd finish my Kashik Force article, because I literally just have to run through it and basically proofread it now that a couple days have passed. And then that thing is submitted, and then that's one more major project off my plate. But that's not a fun answer. That's not a game that I would play. What game would I play? I'd probably go back and play more Call of Duty World at War. I want to finish that campaign now. I played Rhythm Zone this morning for an hour. Let's go back and knock World at War off. I don't know what I'm going to play once that's over with. But Yeah. It's been neat to go through my shooting games and finish a few of them. Because these old FPSs, they really were my favorite kind of game for a long time. So it's kind of a blast from the past. And with that, boys and girls, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio because I got to go do my Thursday at work. I'll see you there. All right, boys and girls. The next track is from Echo Beach. Kaiser, you monster. You got this cassette, and I didn't. It's from the Pink Kakutaru album, which just came out from Echo Beach. They released a cassette tape, and I just didn't have the money to pull the trigger at the time, and I saw that Kaiser did. And I'd like to see if this is sold out. So hang on, I'm gonna pop over to Bandcamp while I got you guys. The album is it's just like the business casual releases. It's free to just get yourself a copy of the MP3s. But the tape, give me a second. Echo Beach. Tape shipped to me is like $13. I can only imagine what it costs to get it shipped to Kaiser in Australia. All right, bear with me. It's loading now. I got the link. We're looking up. Oh, there's still 6 left. The cassette's $9. $9 with $4.50 to get it shipped. So $13.50, right on the money. But what a good album, man! What a good album. Echo Beach has got some awesome stuff. So it looks like this is 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th run of the cassette, actually. So yeah, if I don't get it this time, maybe I'll get it the next time. But in the meantime, we can enjoy it here on Tiger Claw Radio. All right, boys and girls. That's Echo Beach. It's another free album. Pink Lady Kakutaru is the name of the album. That's the second track. It's called Uppity. Check it out on Bandcamp. Make sure you get a copy. Echo Beach has got some amazing stuff. And again, TT Slider, who played the first 2 tracks on Tiger Club Radio this week. All amazing stuff. Are you guys listening to any of this Bandcamp stuff out there? Have you guys found anything on Bandcamp that I haven't heard yet? I'd be interested to hear. You know, another one that I stayed away from for a long time was SoundCloud. I wasn't doing SoundCloud because I didn't like the fact that you couldn't download, the tracks. I want stuff that you can download into MP3 format and keep. And yeah, I think it was really Desm 101. Was it Desm who pointed out that there was an app you could use to externally save the SoundCloud stuff? All right, well, I got into SoundCloud based on that. I don't have any offerings from SoundCloud yet. Because I feel a little bit weird if somebody posts something, pulling it, and then playing it. I don't know. I feel like the terms are different. I feel more comfortable pulling stuff from Bandcamp, but I have opened a SoundCloud and I subscribe to a few people, so that's been fun. All right, well, there's really no time. There's no time for any of this. I got a big fail bag to go over. We're already 41 minutes in, and there's an entire Vancast left from this morning. So let's turn back the clock. Right now, this is being recorded at 7:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7:37 in the evening. It's almost 8 o'clock. We're going to turn back the clock more than 12 hours to early this morning on the Vancast. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Morning, everybody. It's Friday. It is a lovely 66 degrees out right now, and I'm headed off to work. It's time for the Vancast. Not a whole lot to go over today except last night I completed Call of Duty World at War, which is great because I usually don't finish games. It's usually like a rare thing for me to play a game to the end and see the credits. But since I've been playing these shooters again, that's something I've done more and more. I finished Kane and Lynch 2 with Alex Swingo. We finished Fear 3. Went back and played Kane and Lynch 1, and now Call of Duty World at War. So that was fun. I liked, let's see, it took me about 6 or 7 hours. It's kind of hard to gauge because I have about 8 hours in the game now, but I had played it for a couple of hours before before this playthrough. I've loaded the game up and played the zombies mode several times. Played online a little bit in the past. So I would figure this took me about 6 hours to play through, start to finish. And I enjoyed it. It's a good game. It really is. It's kind of funny how with these Call of Duty games, the first player or campaign, the single player aspect really was never something that was discussed. I remember people talking about it, when Call of Duty 4 came out, the first Modern Warfare game. But that's really it. So yeah, this was the start of the era of we only care about multiplayer, and that's really it. That really started with Modern Warfare 2, in my opinion. So yeah, I played that a little bit, finished it up, and I played. Let's see, what else did I do? I have a few more of these Call of Duty games on PC. Excuse me. And I want to play a couple more of those before I move on. See, I've had these Call of Duty games for years and years, but at the time when I bought them, the PC I had couldn't run them. I bought Modern Warfare, and I tried to play through it on an old PC, and it just couldn't hack it. There was input lag. I had to drop it down to like an 800 by 600 resolution. It just wasn't a playable thing. So now, having gone back to play World at War, that reminded me, oh yeah, I got all these games. I haven't played them. So I'm going to go back and play Modern Warfare next. I think that's going to be my next game. I remember, that's the one I probably remember hearing about the Call of Duty craze. When I was first starting podcasting, other podcasts were talking about COD 4. That's what people were calling it at the time. Hey, did you play any COD 4? Why, yes, I did. That was primarily how I remember it being talked about. And then it really exploded when Modern Warfare 2 came out. Because Modern Warfare 2 had the biggest release I think I've ever seen of a single game ever was Modern Warfare 2. Now I know if you look numbers up, you could find games that had bigger releases, but this one was huge. My wife was working at Best Buy at the time, so she had to work that midnight release. That was pretty crazy. Oh, excuse me. I remember going to play Modern Warfare 2, going over to my brother's house and playing that in the basement. It was me, two of my brothers, and my nephew, all playing Modern Warfare 2 on his Xbox 360, like late into the night. That was a good time, man. That happened more than 10 years ago, though. Was it 10 years ago? Yeah, wow. Golly. I'm 35 now. I think I was 23 that night. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But that was a good time. And that night was probably the most I'd ever played Modern Warfare 2. So, it's been fun. Excuse me, to get back into these Call of Duty games and kind of take a look around now that I can play the ones I have on PC. And you can get a lot of these games, for pennies on the dollar at thrift stores. Call of Duty games are showing up at the thrift store left and right for very cheap. People are just throwing them away. At least when I say Call of Duty games, I'm talking about Modern Warfare 2 up to Modern Warfare 3. You'll see Black Ops, you'll see World at War, you'll see Modern Warfare 1, 2, 3, 2 and 3, but that's it. You're not going to find Call of Duty 1 or 2. You're not going to find I haven't seen the original Modern Warfare at the thrift store. There's like a certain window where the games are getting dumped. And at the time of release, you got to understand, I was not a Call of Duty fan. I thought these games were overrated. But now that you can go get one for $3, come on. $3 experience is not bad. You're well worth the money for $3, especially if you're like me and you really panned these games as they were coming out. During like the height of the Call of Duty craze, at that time I was all about, look, these modern shooters are not what they used to be. You want a real shooter, you go back and play Quake. That's where it's at. Play Quake or play Unreal Tournament or Counter-Strike. That was, let's see. I want to say that's when I was getting into Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Excuse me. But that happened in like 2012, 2013. So, yeah. Yeah, so these were games I ignored back in the day, and now that they're not now, I'm circling back and checking them out. Really short single-player experiences, which I seem to remember people criticizing back in the day, because it seems weird to be able to defeat a single-player campaign in 5 to 6 hours. Doubly true when you play the Kane and Lynch games, when it's like 5 hours or 2 hours or something. I can't imagine paying $60 to get Kane and Lynch 2 at release and then, knocking the entire game out in 2.5 hours. I played that game start to finish. Kane and Lynch 2. excuse me, Kane Lynch 2, start to finish, and my Steam copy did not hit the 3-hour mark. Very short. So the games are easy to finish, but I don't know. So that's it. I said when I left the house this morning, I said I'm re-downloading Black Ops. I'm re-downloading Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2. If I was all done with all this stuff and I didn't have any work to do, this is precluding my review responsibilities and the Tiger score, I'd probably load up Modern Warfare and start slugging it out. That or Rhythm Zone. Played Rhythm Zone a little bit too this morning, and I gotta say, the more I play Rhythm Zone, the more it makes me realize that I should get my hands on like an authentic Guitar Hero game. I'm looking back at what we talked about this morning so far, Call of Duty and now Guitar Hero. This is the most like dude bro, collar popping, mainstream, not at all indie, not at all hip this games discussion I think I've had in years, actually. Years, yeah. But you know what? I'm. This is just me being honest. This is the phase I'm in right now, and believe me, make no mistake, this is a phase. Because I jump around games, and not just games, but like interest in game genres. I jump around quite fast. Whoa! Oh my goodness. I'm on the highway, and I kept recording as I merged onto the highway because there's not many people out on the road right now. But somebody had a box blow off the back of their car, like maybe a pickup with a bunch of stuff in the back. And a cardboard box like shot up into the air 30 feet. I'm glad I wasn't next to it when it happened. All right, how we doing? Give me a second. I'm committed now. All right, I'm out here on the highway. I'm gonna wrap it up. It's Friday, so I'm gonna be back recording again this evening. I'll send you guys back to the studio. See you there. If you'll forgive the the most dude bro-ness Vancast ever. But hey man, the Call of Duty games that I severely underestimated how much fun they could be. I think it was just because I hated how much coverage they were getting, and everyone's like, dude, if you like video games, you're interested in video games, right? You must be talking about Call of Duty because that's the only video game that matters right now. That's the way it was when those games were popular, so I'm kind of glad they calmed down. I just got an email that Desco Radio Club EP, who I've played here on the show, has got a new album out, so I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully, I want to say we'll play some on the next on the next TCR, but chances are I'll forget. In the meantime, last week we got 2 emails from Hemrock, and I only read one of them on the air. So that's the first order of business for the Bandcast, or not the Bandcast, for the Failbag. I'm looking up this other email from Hemrock. We're going to see what else he had to say. Alright, hang on. This is the Failbag Part 2. Alright, this came in 8 days ago. He writes, "Hey CF, in addition to a litany of questions I just recently submitted, I've got one more for you. It's time sensitive." Oh boy. It's time sensitive. Hold on, you know what? Let me go ahead and blow the font up so I can make it a little bit easier to read. "It's time sensitive, so I figured I'd better send it to you sooner rather than later. I stumbled across this idea for the RTG85 YouTube channel. If you could pick a few games for the upcoming Sega Genesis Mini, besides the ones that have already been announced, which would you choose, and what probability do they have of showing up on the finished product? Here's my own list. The rest of the main Sonic series, to include 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles. I think the profitability for at least one more of these gems is almost a certainty. Sega has already said the original Sonic will be on the console. However, I think it's about a 50-50 for us to get all 4 games, especially if you expect to have the usability of Sonic and Knuckles on Sonic 2 and 3. What would really be special is if they made a new rendition of Sonic 1 that worked with Sonic and Knuckles." Yep. War Song, 25% chance of one of the original tactical RPGs to make it. This title, perhaps better known as Langrisser in Japan, has been re-released to Japanese audiences on the PS1 and Sega Saturn. I think it's time the North American market gets a second chance. Shining Force 2. Oh yeah, couldn't agree more. Since we're talking TRPGs, might as well mention the obvious. The original Shining Force is already set to come out on the console, so I'm thinking about a 70% chance of having them both. It wouldn't surprise me if the second series didn't make the cut, but I believe Sega has full rights to the game, so that's a point in its favor. Dune, Battle for Arrakis. 10% chance for my favorite real-time strategy game on the Genesis to hit the mini console. Tyrants. 2% chance for this little-known strategy gem. It's also known as Megalomania. Very few people seem to talk about this game anymore. Masters of Monsters. 5% chance. Fantasy-themed turn-based strategy RPG. Truxton. 20% chance. Highly esteemed shmup. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Shmup, that's the first shooter I think you've mentioned in your list. Is that right? Genesis was a great place for shooters. I didn't know this until I revisited the console as an adult. But yeah, we need to see some shooters on this thing. Let's get back to the email. Eternal Champions, 30% chance. I'm surprised this classic Sega fighter has not been released on any variant, any recent compilations to my knowledge. Last time we saw this guy appear on the horizon was the Wii Virtual Console back in December of 2007. Alicia Dragoon. Never played it, but I've heard the game is good, although it became an expensive cartridge. Crusader of Senti, 5% chance. Another expensive game. This one is a Zelda clone. Well, I think I monopolized enough of your time, but I'm sure I could come up with some more. What are your picks? Keep smashing through life's problems like the Kool-Aid Man. Hemrock. P.S. Oh, yeah! All right, so a couple things. He's talking about the Sega Genesis Mini. Now, just quick recap. At Games was doing the mini consoles for Sega Genesis for a while. They got let go. So you're probably thinking, yes, Sega already had a mini console. They had a couple of them. You're right, they did. They were made by At Games, who makes garbage hardware. So this is going to be the first quality mini. Second of all, if the list has dropped since then, I haven't seen it. I haven't read anything about the Sega Genesis Mini, so I'm going into this fresh. Just a reminder, I was not a Sega fan growing up. I'm a huge Sega fan now, but that didn't kick in until my adult life. 13-year-old Alex was not a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I was big into the Mario Brothers. I played Sonic as a kid a little bit. I had a friend who was a big Sonic fan, so I understood Sonic, but I was definitely the Mario guy. So a lot of these types of games, a lot of the games for the Sega Genesis that everybody knows are games that I discovered as an adult. Okay, so I don't know what they had announced up to this point. But there a few games that I would say have to be on any collection. There's got to be Golden Axe. Not just Golden Axe, but Golden Axe 1. Golden Axe 1, I think, is everything that I want in a Sega Genesis game. At least from the early part of the lifespan. It looks great, you know. It has that Sega Genesis grit, that gritty Genesis soundtrack that was way different from the Super Nintendo. It had 2 players. It was fun. It was a fun game. So, Golden Axe. And the first one is the one I like the best. Golden Axe, and I would say every game that appeared on the 6-pack cartridge, for the most part, with the exception of Columns. I didn't take to Columns. I played Columns a little bit on the Game Gear, and I liked it there, but I don't think Columns needs to make it to the the Genesis Mini. Shining Force 2 is a big one. That was one that was highly talked about in my circle as a young lad. All right, let's see what else. I'd like to see more shooters, because the Genesis made great shooters, and a lot of those flew under the radar. Like what was the game that was like the first real internet meme? All your base are belong to us. That was what, Zero Wing, right? Is that what it was called? Give me a second. Let's look it up. Zero Wing. Yeah, that's it. 1989 side-scrolling shoot-'em-up arcade developed by Toplin and published by Taito. Platforms arcade / Sega Mega Drive. Mega Drive. Okay, so maybe that wasn't an American Genesis game. I'm gonna be honest. I really just want to see. I want to see Golden Axe. I want to see a good Mario. Mario. Jeez Louise. A good Sonic library. I want to see Phantasy Star. My goodness. Any Genesis collection that doesn't have Phantasy Star represented on it somewhere is dropping the ball. Golden Axe, Sonic. We need Streets of Rage on it. We need Phantasy Star. What was the treasure game that I liked so much? It's the most expensive Sega Genesis cartridge I have. Gunstar Heroes. How about Gunstar Heroes? You think that'll happen? My goodness. I paid $17 for my copy of Gunstar Heroes. So glad I did. It's the last like great authentic cartridge that I coughed up for before I started getting like the reproduction cartridges. Because there are games that are good, but we know are not going to make it on there. You know, there's no way there's going to be a Splatterhouse game on this thing. It's just not going to happen. Sega doesn't want their console brand to be represented by Splatterhouse. No. I think the way these mini consoles are, if they get 50% of the games in their catalog that hit the mark, then I think I'd be happy. Because you know there's going to be some games that don't belong on there. That's just the way it goes. They can't pick a certain amount of games and have them all hit with everybody. There's going to be one that doesn't make sense. Like Zoop, I bet, is going to be on there or something like that. Zoop will make it, but NBA Jam Tournament Edition won't. And don't tell me NBA Jam Tournament Edition doesn't belong to be on there. Maybe not because it's multiple. It was a multi-console release. Okay, I could take that. But yeah, some good thoughts for the Sega Genesis Classic Mini. So thanks for that email, Hemrock. And sorry I didn't read it last week. Jumping over to YouTube to read the comments. Last week we got one from Death Adder. Death Adder, who runs the Death Adder Super Show, which you can catch over at the Next Round and on his website. He writes, kind of random, but I watched a video about a video store in existence that still rents VHS tapes. I was wondering if you could share any memories about renting movies or video games. I, for one, remember hearing about Mortal Kombat from some random kid in a video store, spurging out, telling me about the violence in it. Turns out he was right. Also, do you ever miss those days of renting just one game and playing that one game as compared to owning 7,000 indie doo-doo shooters that you can play whenever? Oh yeah. Let's read Mecha Menace's reply to that, and I do have some stuff. Mecha Menace writes, I remember going into my local rental store when they were closing down. Everything was on clearance, even the shelves. Notably, there was a video game section, everything complete in box, with games I no longer had the systems to play or never owned. I remember wanting to play NES games, even though I had no NES when it was the Cat's Pajamas. Now that nobody wanted them, and they were emulators, I did not value these games. Yeah, you and anybody else. Plus, where else could I get a life-size Uncle Buck standee? I often wonder what the future of video games, media, or other man-made things are. When people are floating in space colonies in orbit around Jupiter, will they be hyped over the latest earthly-made Mario game? Will they even know about it? It seems like there will be even more choice and less significance of any particular way to waste your time or the brand of shoes you wear. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about rentals. All right. There was a Blockbuster in town that was in like the town square. And our Blockbuster had like a big blue like clock tower next to it. It was weird. And within the couple city blocks surrounding that Blockbuster, there was a comic book store, and there were 3 pawn shops. I've talked about the pawn shops at great length. There was the comic book store, and there was also a used toy store. Okay, a used toy and trade store. It sold like collectible toys, the kind of toys you would think like Doctor Who toys and stuff like that, and like those types of things. So 3 pawn shops, right, which sold Nintendo games. They had this toy store which sold Nintendo games, $5 a piece, got a lot of my collection there, and I had the Blockbuster. People don't seem to remember that at that time, nobody cared about Nintendo games. Nintendo was a thing of the past. They were gone. So any one of these places had Nintendo games. I remember at that time you could buy, let's see, they were renting games still, but this was like PS1 era. So you could go in and you could buy a copy of like NCAA Game Breakers for like a few bucks. I remember that. I remember when they started to go under, more and more games going on sale. But let's turn back the clock even further. All right, because I set up all those places being around each other. And during that time, Blockbuster was there, but I was kind of doing the pawn shops. And that comic book store, by the way, this was before, I can get anything I want on Amazon. Yeah, you could buy stuff on the internet, but most people didn't. There was still a lot of brick and mortar stores. So the comic book store was really like this comic book cultural hub. And it had like a ton of stuff in there. And you could just spend forever. Angie and I used to go to that comic book store, and I would have to pry him out of there with a crowbar. He'd be like, no, I just want to look at a few more things. Just because it was so awesome. When I think back to that place, a lot of the stuff that I remember it having were like little things. Like I remember it having a woven basket full of Pogs for a nickel a piece up at the front. I remember it having a similar woven basket filled with anime VHS tapes. I remember it having Steve Jackson's Car Wars. I remember it having like GURPS and Dungeons and Dragons in the back. Boxes and boxes and boxes of comic books. More comic books than I could ever in a million years go through, especially at that age. And I remember it was comic books in like 1997, 1996, when you could get a comic book for $1.25 for a brand new comic book that was just published from like one of the big companies. But if you go back even further to when I was a young lad, we did rent games. I can remember 2 instances in particular. There, I did get the word out. At one point, I remember renting Bart versus the Space Mutants. That was the first time I ever played Bart versus the Space Mutants on Nintendo, was when we rented it and played it for the weekend. I also remember, similarly, we rented Bayou Billy, because I remember playing with the Bayou Billy sound test and having to give it back. In those days, I used to play with my mother's tape recorder. She had a cassette recorder, and I would put a cassette in, and I would talk into it, and I would basically record like the first episodes of Tiger Claw Radio when I was very, very young. And I remember holding the cassette recorder up to the TV and doing my recording, and then using the controller to trigger sound effects from the sound test from Bayou Billy when I was very young. I wish I still had those tapes. I don't anymore. But that was all fueled by Blockbuster. So yes, I remember Blockbuster very well. When it comes to movies, we used to rent things there as a family. I've got a few like scattered memories of renting films, but not quite so impactful as the times we rented video games. Yeah, we rented a lot of stuff. I think that kind of ended when my dad passed. He passed in 97. So Blockbuster was still around then. Blockbuster was still around, and people were still renting things. What was going on then? I remember he passed before. He never owned a DVD player. And in those days, when you saw commercials for movies on TV, it would say now available on home video and Laserdisc. So we knew that there was this like optical disc movie technology coming out, But at the time, we as a family kind of wrote it off. Well, we weren't going down that rabbit hole yet. So I think DVDs really took over shortly after that. And then that was really the end of us going to Blockbuster. Right. The other time I rented something from Blockbuster. Bart vs. the Space Mutants was one. Another time was when Metal Gear Solid first came out. I know I'm rambling. This is going all over the place, so try and follow me the best you can. I'm just kind of letting it come. We rented Metal Gear Solid from Blockbuster. We had owned a demo for Metal Gear Solid, so we knew to be excited about it. I played the demo 100 million times. Over and over and over again, I played this demo. We had this demo where the voice packs, all the voice bites were all in Japanese. So hearing the English voiceover was really awesome. And it ended as soon as you went into the vent to enter the building. So we rented Metal Gear Solid, and the disc was so scratched up that once you got to the elevator, which is like, I don't know, 15 minutes into the game, it would freeze. And that was the last time we ever rented a video game. That was the last time we ever rented a video game. We returned that like the next day, and I'm trying to like piece it together in my head, like when that came out and how, because it occurs to me now, I don't know how we ended up renting that, because I know my dad wouldn't have taken us there to rent it. That was like towards the end. He was getting really sick. But I don't remember. Maybe it was my buddy who rented it on his card. I don't know, but I remember renting that game and that being the last one. Yeah, Blockbuster was a big deal, man. And when it started to go downhill and they started selling stuff off, I was just like a vulture. I was like, yes, give me my my PS1 games with no case. I don't remember everything being CIB like you said. A lot of loose games. A lot of games with crummy replaceable cases. All right, we got a couple more questions, comments, whatever. We got one from Gaming Beast 82. Darabka, my man, awesome to hear from you. He writes, just wanted to clarify my last question about 4 versus 1 horror games. I would like a mode that's similar to a deathmatch mode in Neverwinter Nights, especially for characters that use traps like Jigsaw. Imagine the players trying to survive a trap dungeon with a killer player taunting the players, manipulating them. Yes, I agree that the inbuilt voice would be necessary for that mode. I would have the mode so that users could use Steam Workshop to download mods for players and killers. Players could also make Nightmare World levels for Freddy, where physics would be all over the place, and would provide an extra challenge for players. A moddable game would be great, because I want Spaghetti to spook me. Maybe some of this stuff would blow the budget, but there's a market for hide and seek simulators out there. And there's only a handful of games out there that look at the moment. Either way, keep up the great work, broski. Excellent idea. A couple of things. All right. So it sounds like you're talking not so much a game where you have one killer who wants to kill the other players, but you have a guy who's building a killer labyrinth for the players to get through. There was a game where you would build a killer labyrinth, and the players would have to try and get through your killer labyrinth. It was called the Castle Doctrine. It was an amazing idea, but very poor execution. The idea is you'd build a house, and the players would have to get through your house of deadly traps. Now, in order for it to work, you had to get through your own house without dying, just to validate. That way, nobody could have a house or a dungeon, so to speak, that was unbeatable. The problem is, once someone successfully completed your house, it was gone from the database. I would like to see something like that with graphics more akin to Neverwinter Nights, where once you make your deadly dungeon, it just stays playable in the workshop. Just keep it up. I like your idea. By the way, while we're on the subject of these 4v1 games, Dead by Daylight had a huge update. Like an update big enough that I probably should have made this a Dead by Daylight themed episode. There's now a time limit. You can't just circle the killer and loop them forever. If you take too long, the entity springs up out of the ground and grabs you and kills you on the spot, and it counts as a sacrifice. You know what? I can't really comment on it because I haven't played it yet. But I know there were problems where you could just loop the killer forever and matches would drag on and on and on and on. So, hey, it is what it is. Finally, we got one from Desm101 who writes, "Hey man, very good tunes lately. The song with those deep synth pads is killer. Phew." And he leaves a time signature of 17 minutes and 22 seconds. Give me a second. Let's see if I can figure out which song that is. Fuji, Fujii. Fuji's got a couple of albums out, but yeah, those are free as well. And they're hot, man. Those are good albums that have a long running time. Very chilled out. It's very chilled out, but I also feel like it has a fleshed out sound. So yeah, Fuji's got some good tracks out, man, for sure. That's worth looking up. If nothing else. I'm trying to think if I would take Fuji over TT Slider, and I would have to say yes. TT Slider's got a lot of really awesome 3-track mini albums, whereas Fuji's got like 2, maybe 3, like mega fleshed out, huge epic albums. Good stuff, yeah, definitely check it out. Where are we at now? I think that's it. Did I actually answer the question? Let me get back to see the comment. Yeah. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you're digging the tunes. I am as well. I've gotten more into. I think it's because of the drive to work. I found that music, the drive provides me with a unique amount of time for the music that I can't really use for video games. Like I can spend 10 hours a week, easy, listening to new music because I have the drive. I can't do that with video games all the time. I've got the weekend, I've got, a little bit in the morning, and that's pretty much it. Well, all right, boys and girls. You know what that sound means. Whatever has brought you here 1 hour and 17 minutes into episode 282 of Tiger Claw Radio, thanks for spending time here. Because whatever anybody tells you, time is the most valuable currency, and I value the time you spent here. Whatever happens when you turn this off and go about your day, I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. Might not go the way you expected, might not go exactly the way you want. Hey, maybe everything's gonna go wrong, but keep moving forward and don't let it beat you. I'm wishing you all the best. I'll see you next week.